let's get into some news from Bot World, delivered by non-portal people. In the UK, UK listeners better put their ears up, because your country is about to be sold. Application to strike off DS01 Companies House UK. Entity: Government UK Limited Company number 055-22373. This company has applied to be struck off and dissolved. The registrar will proceed unless there is reasonable cause not to, and on dissolution, the remaining assets in the company will be passed to the Crown, which is Rothschilds. We, as the directors, apply for this company to be struck off the register and declare that none of the circumstances described in section 1004 and 1005 of the Companies Act 2000 exists in relation to this company. Signed by James Laird Coates, October the 7th, 2020. Another letter dated October the 20th, 2020, confirmed dissolution to take place within 2 months of that date. This means on December the 20th, the company operating as the UK government, but are not actually the real government, is disbanded, and all the companies and assets, and subsequently the country's assets, goes to the Crown. Now, Coates is the bank the royals and the high-end elites use only. Further proof of Clowns in Panic show, June 2019, where I warned of what they would do. They called it decentralisation. I called it harvesting into a smaller control system. I warned governments would go, currencies will go, police would go, military would go, and agencies would go unless all those who work within those structures fought back with the people. TikTok. Criticism of the killing of a senior Iranian military researcher voiced by the ex-head of the CIA seems misplaced, considering that his chief, Barack Obama, ordered targeted assassinations himself, according to a former, is there a former? Probably not. Former Mossad head believes. Now, the Iranian scientist was gunned down last week in what many, including top Iranian officials, believe to be a clandestine Israeli operation. And RT did an interview and spoke to Ephraim Halevi, the former head of the Israeli Secret Service Mossad, to discuss the high-profile assassination, criticism of the move coming from some senior intelligence figures in the US, and what possible goals may have been behind it. And John Brennan, the head of CIA under Obama, reacted to the killing with remarkably harsh words, calling it a criminal act and highly reckless, and possibly an act of state-sponsored terrorism that would be a flagrant violation of international law. Now, the characterization doesn't seem genuine coming from Brennan, Halevi said, considering that American organizations and agencies in the past have carried out similar acts when they believed that an individual was endangering the national security of their country. And Brennan was the one official in the Obama administration to formally acknowledge for the first time that the CIA was running the highly controversial program of targeted drone assassinations. And he insists that killing terrorist leaders and operatives is fundamentally different to what happened to Mr. Fark Hiriz Adar. Nearly said it right. And the issue with this and the sheer hypocrisy of the CIA calling out Mossad on morals, what an oxymoron that is. And that is cognitive dissonance on steroids. There is no justification for killing anyone, period. Least of all over political or trade discourse. We'll have more on Iran later. A young Palestinian teen has died after being shot in the stomach by an Israeli soldier during a protest in the occupied West Bank, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. Predictably, Israelis deny their forces fired live rounds. Now, the 13-year-old boy was taken to hospital in Ramallah in critical condition, where he died from his injuries, according to a statement from the health ministry. And a spokeswoman for the Israeli military said that its personnel had used riot dispersal means. Riots, 13-year-old children. Really? You're having a laugh. Well, actually, no, you're not. It's not funny. Against Palestinians who are throwing rocks at tanks. Ooh, how dangerous is that? And burning tyres in the village of Al-Mughayya, which is 27 kilometres northeast of Ramallah. The reports of the use of live fire during the riot are not true, and claims about a number of rioters injured and one killed are known, she said. Methinks you doth lie. However, Palestinian media reported that live rounds and tear gas were used against the demonstrators, while 4 men were wounded during a march that was reportedly staged in protest at Israeli plans to expand settlements in the West Bank. And the mayor of Al-Mughayya told reporters that the child had been shot near the entrance to the village. This ugly crime is a war crime and a crime against humanity, he said in a statement about the reported death. Again, the world stays silent to the crimes of these people and entities. And it's time the world showed some backbone for once. Killing kids for throwing stones at tanks. Really. We're going to hear a lot of this tonight, and things they say that make you go, part 1 of 8. Fox News' Jeanine Pirro, one of President Trump's most loyal supporters, it is said, has turned on Attorney General William Barr, calling him a, quote, reptile for daring to weigh in on election voter fraud. While Pirro once praised Barr, she is now referring to him as a swamp dweller for his comments this week that there had been no substantial evidence of widespread voter fraud in the presidential election. As a former prosecutor for over 3 decades, I and virtually everyone similarly situated know that DOJ guidelines do not allow comment on investigations, she said Sunday night in what was a particularly long rant directed at Mr. Barr, whose job some have predicted could be on the line since his election comments as they break with the president's hardline stance that he won in a landslide. We need answers, we need action, we need justice, and you, Mr. Barr, are so deep in the swamp you cannot see beyond your fellow reptiles, and you are not the exceptional leader needed at this exceptional time in history, she said. Oops. Non-House Speaker, or House non-Speaker, Nancy Pelosi is being accused of having spent months blocking the COVID-19 relief to help Joe Biden and hurt Donald Trump after she said a smaller bill is now possible thanks to a lack of, quote, other considerations, unquote. Pelosi changed her tune on COVID-19 relief during a press conference last Friday where she appeared more willing to cut a deal with Republicans than in previous months. And Pelosi previously led House Democrats for months in a battle with the White House, unwilling to agree to anything less than the $2 trillion plus envisioned by the House-passed HEROES Act. Now, the Californian Congresswoman even referred to a previous $1.6 trillion stimulus bill as not even half a loaf, she said. And yet, in her Friday press conference, however, she was much more willing to back a $900 billion package proposed as the basis for negotiations with the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And when she was asked by a reporter if rejecting the $1.6 trillion package was a mistake now that one worth much less is being discussed, Pelosi snapped at the characterization and insisted blocking relief previously was not a mistake. A typical theme now, where people won't own up to their own mistakes. And then she said, I'm going to tell you something. You don't characterize what we did before as a mistake, as a preface to your question, if you want an answer. Dear me. And her unwillingness to compromise previously was not a mistake, she said, and the reason a deal is possible now is because those months of no progress has taken us to a place where we can do the right thing without, shall we say, other considerations in the legislation that we don't want. And there you have it, Americans. Pelosi delayed your money for political gains, and then when it works, slashes $700 billion from you, and you all think this is okay. Tolerating this level of deliberate delaying of the public's funding enables the government to treat us with disdain. The BBC did a stark effect video on the comatose public this week, showing the death rate, fear porn, as all media and weather channels do. And in the presentation, they were asked, where does the data for the visualizations come from? Their answer? Most of the case and death figures come from the Johns Hopkins University, who have PhDs in math deficiency. And then they added, although the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control is the source for China and for any data before January the 22nd, when the Johns Hopkins dataset begins. Now, the government data is used for the UK and France. And then they went on and said all the numbers are an underestimate of the true impact of coronavirus. No, a gross overestimate. Just because the Johns Hopkins Centre can't add up doesn't mean everyone else can't. And they said when so-called excess deaths, the number of deaths above the average, are considered, the toll increases. No, it doesn't. The BBC revealed where their funding comes from this presentation called Media Action. And they out these groups. So what is Media Action? Well, the BBC Media Action is a BBC international charity, and they say we believe in media and communication for good. Yeah, right. And then they say we reach more than 100 million people each year in some of the world's poorest and most fragile countries. Our projects and programs save lives. No, you don't. Protect livelihoods. No, you don't. Counter misinformation. No, you are the misinformation. Challenge prejudice. No, you don't. Build democracy. No, you don't. So the Media Action top 10 donors for 2019-2020, which pay in part for the fact-checkers' rubbish, are as follows. Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, £886,000, UK pounds. The Swedish International Development Fund, £3,383,000. For Americans, you times that figure by 1.3, and that is the dollar version. Global Affairs Canada, £1,642,000. The UK Department for International Development, £2,767,000. The UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, £7,645,000. The European Union, the United States of Europe, same name, same people, £3,199,000. And it's about to get worse. The United Nations Development Fund, £2,402,000. US aid, £1,005,000. And then we come to the last two. NORAD, £1,399,000 from NORAD. And finally, £1,569,000 from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All that money goes into not helping people, but convincing people of their truth, which is a lie. Thanks to the BBC for allowing our show to expose you again for what you are. Snakes. As President